The third temple isn't just a building project, it's the key to understanding end times prophecy. Right now in Jerusalem, priests are being trained, sacred vessels are being crafted, and architectural plans are being drawn for a structure that hasn't existed for 2,000 years. But this isn't about nostalgia or historical reconstruction. According to biblical prophecy, this temple must stand before the world as we know it ends, and the people working to build it believe we're running out of time. To understand why the third temple matters, we need to go back to 70 AD. Roman legions, led by future Emperor Titus, surrounded Jerusalem after a brutal Jewish revolt. When they breached the walls, they did something that would echo through millennia. They destroyed the second temple, the holiest site in Judaism, the place where heaven and earth were believed to meet. The first temple, built by King Solomon around 950 BC, stood for nearly 4 centuries before Babylonians razed it in 586 BC. The second temple rose from those ruins 70 years later and stood for almost 600 years, expanded magnificently by King Herod into one of the ancient world's architectural marvels. But after 70 AD, there was nothing. Just absence, just memory, just prophecy. For 2,000 years, Jews have prayed facing Jerusalem, ending Passover Seders with "Next year in Jerusalem" and mourning at the Western Wall, the last remnant of the temple complex. The temple isn't just a building in Jewish tradition. It's the dwelling place of God's presence, the location of the Holy of Holies, the center of ritual sacrifice, and the axis around which the entire world turns. And many believe it must return. Here's where everything gets complicated. The Temple Mount in Jerusalem's Old City is the most religiously contested real estate on the planet. Muslims call it Haram al-Sharif, the noble sanctuary. It's where the Prophet Muhammad is believed to have ascended to heaven during the night journey. It's home to the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock, some of Islam's holiest sites, standing where they've stood for nearly 14 centuries. But it's also where both Jewish temples stood. And that's the collision point. Religious Jews who advocate for the Third Temple aren't talking about building somewhere else. They're talking about building exactly where the First and Second Temples stood, on the Temple Mount itself. Some propose removing the Islamic structures. Others suggest building alongside them. A few offer complex archaeological theories about how both could coexist. But make no mistake, any serious attempt to build the Third Temple in its traditional location would be seen by Muslims worldwide as an act of war against Islam itself. This isn't theoretical. The Temple Institute in Jerusalem has spent decades recreating the sacred vessels needed for temple worship. Golden menorahs, the high priest's breastplate with 12 precious stones, silver trumpets, incense shovels. Over 100 ritual objects have been crafted according to exacting biblical specifications. The priestly garments have been woven. Men from the Jewish priestly lineage, descendants of Aaron, identifiable through family records and DNA testing, have been trained in the ancient sacrificial rites. The Temple Institute has even attempted to birth a perfect red heifer, the rare unblemished animal required for the purification ritual that must precede temple service. Architectural plans exist. Millions of dollars have been raised. In 2020, the Sanhedrin, a modern reconstitution of the ancient Jewish High Court, called on Jews and righteous Gentiles to donate toward building the Third Temple. These aren't fringe activities happening in basements. These are organized, well-funded, increasingly mainstream efforts within certain segments of Israeli society. If you're finding this deep dive into biblical prophecy and current events fascinating, make sure you're subscribed to Prophetic Chronicles. We're breaking down the signs of the times and connecting ancient prophecy to today's headlines. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next video. Now let's talk about why this matters right now. But why now? Why after 2,000 years? For many religious Jews, the return to Jerusalem in 1967 when Israel captured the Old City, including the Temple Mount during the Six-Day War, marked a prophetic turning point. Ancient texts speak of a regathering of exiles, a return to the land, and the rebuilding of the temple as precursors to the Messianic age. The religious Zionist movement sees modern Israel itself as the beginning of redemption. The Third Temple is the next chapter in a divine script written millennia ago. They're not waiting passively for a miracle. They believe they're called to actively participate in bringing about the prophesied future. It's worth noting that not all Jews support rebuilding the temple. Many secular Israelis view it as dangerous extremism. Ultra-Orthodox groups actually oppose it, believing only the Messiah can rebuild the temple. Reform and conservative Jews largely focus on synagogue worship rather than temple restoration. But the temple movement is growing, becoming more politically connected and gaining traction among younger religious Israelis. The Third Temple obsession isn't limited to Judaism. Millions of evangelical Christians, particularly in the United States, view the temple's reconstruction as essential to biblical end-times prophecy. They point to passages in Daniel, Ezekiel, and Revelation that describe a rebuilt temple in Jerusalem during the final days before Christ's return. Some interpretations suggest the Antichrist will desecrate the temple. Others focus on it as a sign that prophecy is unfolding in real time. This theological conviction has translated into political influence. Christian Zionist organizations have donated millions to Israeli causes, including temple-related projects. They've lobbied American politicians to support policies favorable to temple advocates. Some U.S. politicians themselves hold these beliefs, viewing support for Israel through an explicitly biblical lens. This alliance between Jewish temple activists and Christian evangelicals creates a powerful coalition with significant resources and political reach. Now layer in the politics, and you'll see why this matters beyond theology. The Temple Mount's status has been a delicate balance since 1967. Israel controls security, but the Islamic Waqf administers the site. Jews can visit, but not pray there. Palestinians view any change to this status quo as an existential threat. The wider Arab and Muslim world watches Jerusalem with intense scrutiny. When Ariel Sharon, then an Israeli opposition leader, visited the Temple Mount in 2000, it helped spark the Second Intifada, a Palestinian uprising that killed over 1,000 Israelis and 3,000 Palestinians over 5 years. A visit. Imagine what an attempt to build would trigger. Israel's government has historically avoided the Third Temple issue, seeing it as suicidal to stability. But Israeli politics have shifted rightward. Religious nationalist parties hold unprecedented influence. Politicians who once dismissed temple talk now make pilgrimages to the site and speak more openly about Jewish sovereignty there. Regional tensions are already explosive. Iran's nuclear program, normalization agreements between Israel and Arab states, the ongoing Israeli-Palestinian conflict, Hamas, Hezbollah. Into this volatile mix, introduce an attempt to alter or build on the Temple Mount, and you have the potential for regional conflagration. The Third Temple changes everything because it sits at the intersection of religion, politics, prophecy, and power. It's where ancient biblical prophecy meets modern geopolitics, where religious devotion meets existential conflict, where the deepest beliefs of three major faiths converge on 35 acres of stone. If construction begins, regional war becomes likely. Muslim-majority nations would face enormous domestic pressure to respond. Militant groups would have the ultimate rallying cry. The fragile peace agreements Israel has built could collapse overnight. But for believers, it's not about geopolitics. It's about covenant, prophecy, and the culmination of history itself. It's about fulfilling what they believe God commanded and bringing about the redemption they've awaited for 2 millennia. So we're left watching and waiting. Watching as priestly garments are stitched, as red heifers are inspected, as political coalitions shift, as prophecy believers see signs everywhere, as tensions rise over visits, prayers, and sovereignty. The third temple hasn't been built, but the obsession with building it is already changing Middle Eastern politics, religious movements, and the calculations of powers near and far. And that might be the point where everything changes, not when the temple is completed, but when someone decides the time has come to try. The question isn't whether people are preparing to build it. They are. The question is, what happens when they actually do? Thanks for watching. If this video opened your eyes to how biblical prophecy is unfolding in real time, do me a favor. Share it with someone who needs to see this. And for more prophetic insights connecting scripture to current events, subscribe to Prophetic Chronicles. We're watching, we're waiting, and we're keeping you informed. I'll see you in the next one.